بسم الله طيب. You ready Nafis? السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. The lecture tonight, as you all know, is going to be on social media. Social media in light of the Quran and the Sunnah, a critical analysis, of course, in brief, with regards to the ups and the downs of social media. And before we start this important topic, which I feel is one of the most, if not the most important topic to discuss in 2019, because as we all know, man, woman, child, even toddler, life is social media and social media is life in 2019. On one level or another. Social media is life and life is social media. Anything that you want and need, love, hate, pertains to social media. A person can never leave his house and can do so much, good or bad, positivity or evil, food, medicine, knowledge, traveling, marriage, dating, whatever you want to do, good or bad, on one level or another, there is some type of social media platform. And social media has become so powerful, and there are so many different search engines, and one of those search engines has become so beneficial and so helpful and so useful to Muslims that it has been given the honorific title of Sheikh. They've given a search engine the honorific title of a scholar, Sheikh Google. That right there should give you the whole summary of the power of social media. How many different inventions and pieces of technology came before the Google search engine? How many search engines before Google? Back in the day, it was no Google, and you search for something. So for them to give just Google that title and that word, that says a lot. In other words, whatever you type in, whatever you punch in, you're going to get some type of feedback within not seconds, split seconds. Hundreds and thousands of answers, hundreds and thousands of results just by you punching in a few words. That says a lot. And if you don't think that that says a lot, then unfortunately you may be among those who have been left in the past and stuck in the past. So no doubt social media is extremely important, discussing it and breaking it down, and most importantly asking ourselves the question, what is going to be our position regarding social media? Should I let my son have a smartphone or not? Should I let my daughter, who's 10 years old, have unlimited data or not? Can I have a Facebook account or not? Should I be on Instagram or not? Can I watch something on YouTube or not? Can I post lectures on YouTube or not? Etc. Should I have social media in my house? What is our position as Muslims? What should we do? Should we only teach classes in the masjid and organize in the masjid, or should we go outside of the masjid? Etc. All of the questions that you want to ask yourself regarding social media. And I humbly feel, on one level or another, your life is going to be touched and affected by social media, living in this age. Whether you live in the powerful, influential, advanced, dominating countries, the West, or whether you live in a depleted, dilapidated, rural, third world country, on one level or another, social media is going to have an effect on your life. And if it's of that importance and status, then of course there has to be rulings. Of course there has to be instructions. Of course there has to be guidelines, do's and don'ts, from the aspect of our spirituality, and from the aspect of our legislature, and from the aspect of our religion regarding this thing. And that's the golden principle. The golden principle. Anything that touches and does not discriminate what or who it touches, there has to be instructions in Islam. As far as certain practices or certain aspects of life that only a few people dip in, indulge in, and touch, and it pertains to only a few people, and then we know we have Islamic instructions regarding that too, but it's not the same. But if it's something which is widespread, If it's something that affects each and every single person, then of course there has to be a great deal of rulings and do's and don'ts in our deen. And that's because our deen is a complete way of life. Our deen is a complete way of death, living and dying. قُلْ إِنَّ الصَّلَاةِ Allah says, قُلْ إِنَّ. He says what? Is that وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Not just my life, but also my death is for Allah, the Lord of the worlds. My life and my death. So Islam is a way to live, and it's a way that you should plan on going out and exiting this world as well. Yaqub, he said to his children on his deathbed, فَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. Don't die unless you're Muslims. For Allah to use those words and to say that, فَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. Don't die unless you're a Muslim. That has to show is that the instructions of Islam are not just for living, but also how you exit this world. So anything which is very important, widespread, and mass circulation, of course there has to be Islamic instructions. That's the rule. Everyone understand this? Everyone understand this rule? That everybody with me or not? As far as something only a few people know about, it only pertains to one specific people or one specific place or one specific location, then perhaps you don't have that much. But if it pertains to everyone, and if it's generally across the board, then there has to be a detailed list of do's and of don'ts, halal, haram, and most importantly, our conceptualization of that thing, because it is a part of daily life. Al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum. Allah says that your deen is complete. Islam is never ever just a religion. It's not a faith. It's a way of life and it's a way of death. And that includes all aspects, all spheres, and all different shades of one's life and of one's death. طيب. So with that being said, بإذن الله تعالى, there are some researchers and some experts who say that social media has its origins in ancient practices. Even though it's a technological novelty and it's something which is relatively new, but the original concept of التواصل الاجتماعي, of being in relation, being in touch with people in congregation and community, is extremely old. And some experts and some researchers, they say that social media has its foundations and the practices of many Saharan and sub-Saharan tribes of Africa, in which there were people who moved about looking and searching for pastures and looking and searching for grounds that were suitable to graze upon and to take their cattle and their livestock. Places that were dry, places that were barren, places in which there was water, in which there were wells, in which they could bring their animals and feed upon and graze upon, in which they could cut down trees and take wood to burn and to make coal, etc. And when one tribe found a place that was suitable, they would send out messengers to inform the other tribes. And then they would compare the information that they got on what's the most suitable place to go and to migrate. Nomadic people. Nomadic people. And the same applies to the Americas with regards to the different hunting grounds. And as a very important fact, Allahu Alam if it's the same in Canada, but for sure in the United States, when we talk about Holocaust, when we talk about genocide, one of the worst Holocausts and genocides that took place was that against the native people of America. And the settlers and those that were trying to take them off of their lands, they knew that it wasn't an easy task. And they knew that they had to use dirty and sneaky tricks to get them off of the land that they coveted. And in many states to this day, they have their original Native American Indian names, such as Dakota and other states that were known for having hills of gold. And these native people, they considered these hills to be sacred. For one reason or another, their aqidah of shirk or whatever it was sacred. These are where our forefathers are buried. These hills are sacred. And the settlers said that there's gold in those mountains, yellow iron, and we need that gold. So the native people, they refused to give them those hills in which there was gold. Read about the gold rush. You'd be shocked about the atrocities that were committed for the lust of gold. So the settlers said, we have to get these people off of these hills and take their land that's full of minerals and resources And this can't happen by conventional fighting, even if we have better machinery and better weapons and tools of war and stronger armies, but it has to be something else that we do to them. So one of the tricks that they did is they made mass genocide on the buffalo. They would slaughter the buffalo. They would kill all of them. And they wouldn't utilize their meat and their bones and their intestines and their skin. They would just take the hides, the fur. And they would leave the animals hundreds. Just stop and think about this now for a second. Have you ever seen a buffalo in real life? Maybe some of you have. Once when I was in Connecticut, I saw one in the zoo. And my humble opinion, it's an amazing creature. La ilaha illallah. The size of the creature, the color of the creature, how still, how passive, how docile the animal is. A bison. Something that you read about in books, you see on TV, you watch it on cartoon, but to actually see that animal. And it's breathtaking and humbling to see that animal. So just imagine 400 of them in one place at one time. Imagine 300, 400, 200 buffalo in one place at one time. That is a spectacle. It's a spectacle. So therefore, what they would do was, they would go to these buffalo or these bison, and they would shoot and kill all of them immediately. And either take their hides and leave the carcass or leave the body to rot in the sun, and obviously for the natives to see it. Or they would just shoot them and leave them, like we say, poachers. So obviously when the natives, when they saw these animals, of course it would have a huge effect upon them. Whereas the buffalo was sacred, and the buffalo was their source of their survival. It provided their nutrition, it provided their clothing, it provided the resources for their weapons, their cooking pots, their drums, etc. So for someone to come and just kill all of the buffalo and leave it there, that's a great deal of psychological terror that they made against them. But how did they know about hunting the buffalo? And what was so important about hunting the buffalo and the rites of passage? A young man had to be brave enough to kill the buffalo and to bring it back to his tribe and his village, except through social media. They would travel and they would scout. They would know the locations where the buffalo would be, where the bison would be. And one tribe would tell another the seasons, the locations, and they would inform each other, and they would keep relations with each other on that which was beneficial, rather with that which was considered to be a staple necessity of their existence. So some researchers, they say this is the history of social media, of tribes staying in contact with other tribes with the purpose of basic necessities. Basic necessities. Everyone understand this? And the genocide of the bison, obviously, was a major blow to those native people. They couldn't survive. They couldn't live. They couldn't function without the harvesting, without the hunting of those buffalo. So that's why they wiped them out. And if you look at certain pictures, certain documentaries, you'll find mountains of buffalo skulls. Mountains. In which they intended specifically to make this animal extinct, to weaken those people and to remove them from their lands. And we know that is exactly what took place. That's exactly what took place. But we're not here to mention a history or history lesson. The point is that there are some researchers, not Muslims, non-Muslims, they say these are the foundations of social media. This is where it comes from. And if you stop and you think about it, it's pretty much the same today. You want to buy a car. You want to buy a house. You want to move to a place. You want to buy a product. What do you do? What's the first thing you do when you have a debate? Is there a city in Zaire called Xavier? You do what? We fight, we can't agree. What's the first thing we pull out? We Google it. And then we look in Quora, and we look on this forum, and this person said this is the best model, that's not a good model, so on and so forth. And then we go and we buy it. Don't buy this model of the car. It's a lemon. They messed it up. This is the better model. This is more suitable. This is a better price, etc. People that go on social media for things which are what? Necessary to them and beneficial to their survival. Is this not the case? Whether it's Islamic or whether it's totally worldly. And obviously people, they've expanded this. People are on social media for things which are not necessary. People on social media with regards to things which are harmful to them. There aren't needs and necessities at once. But the foundation of social media was survival, finding water to drink, finding animals to hunt, finding a place to migrate to, etc. So that's the foundation of what? Social media. Everyone understand this? An idea isn't new of people being in relation with each other. And obviously as time went on and man was taught more by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the people's standards of life and the quality of life evolved, They've refined it. The concept of courier, the concept of messengers, the concept of scouts, the concept of espionage. Everyone understand this? The concept of these things all form the foundations of social media, in which you get information in the comfort of your own home. You receive necessary information in your own locale without traveling. You give information to someone who didn't do what you did, and you trade secrets, and you correspond, and you speak with each other, etc. This is the foundation of social media. Everyone understand this or not? Tight. So with that being said, that's brief history, and that's only one theory of where social media came from. And whenever there's a major phenomenon, you need to know where it comes from. If you don't know where you come from, you can't know where you're going. You have to know what is the foundation of a thing. Where did it start off and how did it start off to properly deal with it, let alone in the future. So with that being said, what is the position of the Muslim regarding social media? Is it absolutely good? Is it absolutely bad? Is it something that we should or shouldn't be doing? And if we do it, how much of it are we allowed to? And how little should we be refraining from it? What can I watch? What can I listen to? Who can I talk to? Can I get married on social media? Can I talk to somebody through social media? Can I give dawah on social media? Can I be a sheikh on social media? Can I seek knowledge through social media? Etc. And there are many, many other Islamic things that pertain to the rulings of social media. Pictures, videos, showing someone your aura, a woman talking to a man who isn't her husband, etc. Is it halal? Is it haram? Can you give ijazah via social media? Is it permissible for there to be free mixing? And the list goes on. Buying something, selling something that you don't have, that you didn't feel, that you didn't touch. Can you give a description of a product through social media? All of these things pertain to our topic and our talk tonight. Bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. So with regards to social media, I think that social media is like something that's also very important to man and to the existence of man, and something that's very, very old. And that is the concept of money or wealth, gold and silver, monetary assets. What is the position of Islam regarding money? Is it permissible to be wealthy? Can I be rich? Can I own a Rolex watch? Or is it haram and disliked? You can't have a watch that costs that much money. Is it a good thing to be poor, to be broke, to be hungry? Is that lawful or is that unlawful? Can I save money? Can I collect money? Can the Muslim say, I want to be rich? I don't want to work from check to check. I want to be wealthy. I want to save money. I want to have nice things. Is that permissible? Is money a good thing? Absolutely. Is it a bad thing? Absolutely. And what is the stance and the position of Muslims dealing with finances and money? In my humble opinion, this is the same exact ruling of social media. طيب. It states here in the book مختصر منهاج القاصدين بيان في مدح المال. He says we're going to speak about the praise of wealth. That money is a good thing and never a bad thing. It's a good thing. Money is praiseworthy and it isn't blameworthy. Now many of you are probably saying, what do you mean money is a good thing? How can money be a good thing? Every khutbah that we hear about money is warning against money and talking down against money until it's time to collect money. That's very hypocritical, don't you think? The Imam gives a khutbah and he talks about how money is bad and it's bad to be rich and it's bad to be wealthy, and then right after they collect money for the masjid. That doesn't make any sense. Don't be a lawyer, don't be a doctor, don't be wealthy, don't be an engineer, but we need you to support the center. That's hypocritical. Don't you feel that that's hypocritical? Have you ever witnessed this? There's no question about that. There's some people say that we're not going to work, you shouldn't work, don't get a job, just sit in the masjid and make dhikr. That's it. Well, who's paying for your food and your drink and your plane tickets to go here and to travel there? It comes through money. So money in itself is never ever absolutely bad. Just like money isn't always absolutely good. There's a do and there's a don't with regards to wealth and money. He says, rahimahullah, قد بينا أن المال لا يذم لذاته بل ينبغي أن يمدح لأنه سبب للتوصل إلى مصالح الدين والدنيا وقد سماه الله تعالى خيرا وهو قوام الأدمي. قال الله تعالى في أول سورة النساء ولا تؤتوا السفهاء أموالكم التي جعل الله لكم قياما. وقال سعيد بن المسيب رحمه الله لا خير في من لا يريد جمع المال من حله يكف به وجهه عن الناس ويصل به رحمه ويعطي منه حقه. وقال أبو إسحاق السبيعي كانوا يرون الساعة عونا على الدين. وقال سفيان المال في زماننا سلاح المؤمنين. وحاصل الأمر أن المال مثل حية فيها سم وترياق، فترياقه فوائده وغوائله سمه، فمن عرف فوائده وغوائله أمكنه أن يحترز من شره ويستدر من خيره. He says, we've previously explained to you that money isn't absolutely praiseworthy, nor is it absolutely blameworthy. There is no one ruling of social media. Do it 100%. Doesn't exist. Don't do it. Stay away from it 100%. It does not exist. Rather, just like money, it should be praised when it needs to be praised. And that's because he says wealth, money, is a way for you to get the things that you need and want of the deen and of the dunya. So what are the 5 pillars of al-Islam? Establishing the prayer, paying zakah, making hajj, fasting the month of Ramadan. What are some of the most important aspects of Islam that aren't a part of the 5 pillars? Al-jihad fi sabilillah, seeking ilm, al-amr bil-ma'ruf wal-nahy anil munkar, enjoining the good and forbidding the evil. These are all major virtuous acts in al-Islam. None of them can be done successfully and properly unless there is an abundance of wealth. Not wealth, but an abundance of wealth. How can you establish the prayer without money? Not to pray, but to establish prayer. There has to be a place, there has to be a location, there has to be an imam, there has to be a muadhin, there has to be a carpet for you to put your head on, lights for you to see, wudu for you to make. And the water has to be warm and hot in the wintertime and not cold. And none of that is free. That only comes through money. Hajj, you can't go on Hajj for free, even if you get a free ticket, as some masjids do from time to time, or some travel agents. They have guilt for sucking the people dry for all of those years. You get all those thousands of extra dollars. They say, oh, you can make Hajj free, brother. They give a poor brother a ticket, and he's making thousands and millions of dollars just off of Hajj. This is reality. But when you go to Saudi Arabia, you're on an airplane, you have to pay for things. The bus breaks down. The hotel room that you had was given to somebody else. Food, basic spending, basic souvenirs that you want to bring back to your family. None of that is free. Hajj without money is impossible. Zakat. What zakat is made, what zakat is given, what sadaqah is given without wealth. And one of the most beneficial practices in al-Islam is giving sadaqah. As the Prophet ﷺ is quoted to have said, Kullu mu'minin fi dhilli sadaqati yawm al-qiyamah, aw kama jaa. The hadith that says that the believer will be in the shade of his charity. The believer will be in the shade of his charity. When it comes to enjoining the good and forbidding the evil, who's going to listen to you if you're poor and hungry and starving? How can you tell someone to fear Allah, to put this down? That's haram, and they feed you and they take care of you. They pay your check, they pay your salary. You aren't going to tell them anything. And that's why the Arabs, they say, إِذَا أَكَلَتِ الْبُطُونَ إِسْتَحْيَتِ الْعُيُونَ. When someone's feeding you, you don't look at them. You're shy when your belly is full. I take care of you, I provide for you. Now you want to come to me and say, ittaqillah, is haram? Of course not. And if you do, you're not going to do it the same way of you saying it independently. I have my own money. You can't buy me out. You cannot threaten me. You cannot force me into the corner of taking, because I have my own wealth. And now I say, ittaqillah. That's haram. You cannot do that. Let alone jihad fi sabilillah. Allah clearly mentions, bi'amwalikum, with your wealth and with your anfus. So the concept of money in Islam is like brown and rice. They go hand in hand. So money is a way of you getting the things that you need of the deen, he says. Let alone the dunya, getting married. The Prophet ﷺ, he says, oh, assembly of youth, get married. How can you get married without money? In 2019 in Canada and New York City, unfortunately, 9 out of 10 fathers, the first thing that they look at and consider of a young man asking for their daughter's hand in marriage is deen, is khuluq, is character, is potential. No way. It's what? His what? Without a question, his money. How much money do you have? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It doesn't mean that someone is greedy. It doesn't mean that someone's woman or daughter is a gold digger. How are you going to take care of my daughter? Basic necessities. Can you feed my daughter? Can you put a roof over her head? Can you buy her shoes? What are you going to do if she gets pregnant? Can you take care of the child? I don't want my daughter to starve. My daughter, she doesn't come from a poor background. Well, alhamdulillah, I've given her everything that she wanted and needed. She's spoiled. And I'm not requesting for you to do the same for my daughter, but there's a basic standard that you have to have for my daughter. Basic. That's not outlandish. Let alone those fathers who are greedy, jashi'een, waliyadhu billah, in which they want the highest bidder for their daughters. Their daughter is like a loaf of bread. The price is on the package. This is how much my daughter's worth. I don't care what your character is like, your family, your religion, doesn't matter. Whoever has the most money, he can marry my daughter. It's a reality, and it's a bitter reality. And many of you may not like this, but you can't disagree with reality. We all know how it works. Except for the people whom Allah Azza wa Jalla has mercy upon. Men are greedy, and they sell their daughters. They put their daughters on an auction block. Who's the highest bidder for my daughter? He has no character. He has no deen. His family background, we all know. But he has money. Bismillah. It's unfortunate. So you can't even get married without money in 2019. Illa man rahima rabbi. Except for the people whom Allah has mercy upon. And the list goes on of the things that you can't do of the deen and of the dunya unless you have money, unless you have wealth. He says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has called wealth khair. He gave the name and the title khair, good. That man, لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيد, يعني لِحُبِّ الْمَالِ. Man loves goodness. He called wealth good. So for Allah to call something good, is no way that it can be absolutely bad. That's the point he's trying to make. Allah Azza wa Jal, He's also made wealth the vertebrae of the human being. His lifeline is money. That's how he survives. That's how he lives in life, through wealth. As he said in Surah An-Nisa, and do not give fools your wealth. وَلَا تُؤْتُوا السُّفَهَاءَ أَمْوَالَكُمْ. Don't give people who are foolish your money that Allah has made. جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ قِيَامًا. Allah, He called money qiyam. That's how you stand up. Without money, you can't stand. So this is what the Quran says about what? About having wealth. Some of the pious predecessors, such as Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib, and we know he was from the most knowledgeable of the tabi'een, if not the most knowledgeable. He was called Sayyid al-Tabi'een. He was from the best of the successors of the Sahaba. He says, لا خير في من لا يريد جمع المال من حله. He says, someone who doesn't want to gain and obtain permissible wealth and lawful wealth, there's no good in him. La khayra. There's no good in someone who doesn't want wealth from the permissible lawful means. Why is this, O Sayyid? How is this? What if someone says, I don't want to collect money, I don't want money? Why is there no good in him? لماذا? He says, لا يريد جمع المال من حله. لماذا؟ ما الأسباب؟ لأنه يكف به وجهه عن الناس. It allows him and it protects him from begging. You don't have to beg when you have your own. And what does the Prophet ﷺ tell us about begging? Something that we've become accustomed to. Something that is a norm for many of us, unfortunately. We ask people for money. We beg them. And the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ give a clear warning against begging. And it's haram to beg. And it's a major sin to beg for money. Unless there are three conditions. The Prophet ﷺ, he mentions in one narration, which is totally authentic in the Sahih, لا تزال المسألة بأحدهم. He says that a person will beg and beg and beg and beg and beg. He won't stop begging for money. حتى يلقى الله يوم القيامة وليس في وجهه مزعة لحم. أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. He says so badly that he will come on the day of judgment and he meets Allah with a skeleton face. No flesh in his face. And an ugly, horrible, terrifying appearance. And that's because he exposed his face to people. Give me some money, please, help me, help me. So it's only befitting on the day of judgment, he meets Allah in an ugly form, with no skin, no flesh in his face. You want to scare somebody on Halloween, the Grim Reaper. What does the Grim Reaper face look like? Except for what? A skeleton. You understand this? Pirates. What would they put on their ships? Jolly Roger. It'll be a what? A skeleton. as a means of scaring people, psychological warfare. No one wants to see a skeleton. No one wants to see someone's face and there's no flesh in his face. If someone is burnt in a fire, if someone gets in a really bad car accident, there lies no doubt he has scars, scar tissue, missing pieces of chunks of flesh out of his face. It's not a pleasant sight. And that is why in a movie, whenever there's a tough guy or a warrior, he always has a scar. And when you see someone with a missing piece of his eyebrow here, and a line here, and a line there, and this there, you know he's a serious guy. He has some battle wounds, battle scarred. Everyone understand this? No doubt about that. And he still has what? Flesh in his face and skin. But he looks scary. You don't want to play around with him. You're not going to find no businessman, nobody on Wall Street in a three-piece suit, and loafers with what? Those cuts and those scars on their face. It doesn't work like that. But someone who's a tough guy, who's this and that, he's going to have those what? Those nicks and those cuts and those bruises on his face. So the face is utterly important. As we debated, what's the first thing you do when someone comes on an interview at your job? Is you look at their appearance for 5 to 10 seconds. You look at them. And oftentimes the first thing is you look at someone's face. You look at their eyes. So in Yawm al-Qiyamah, the slave will meet Allah and he won't have no flesh in his face. Waliyadu billah. The slave will be in front of the other servants of Allah and they have no flesh in his face. This shows that begging for money is unlawful and begging for money is haram unless there are specific conditions, which we're not going to mention right now. Al-Muhim, Sa'id ibn Musayyib, he says, the first benefit of having lawful wealth is it protects you from exposing your face, begging. I don't have to beg because Allah gave me. I don't have all of the money, but I have the necessities. I don't need to beg anymore. I don't have to humiliate myself. Number 2, he says, وَيَصِلُ بِهِ رَحِمَهُ, and for him to keep relations with the ties of kin. Your mother, where I come from, keeping the ties of kin and respecting your mother, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا مَنْ أَحَقُّ النَّاسِ بِحُسْنِ صَحَابَتِي, where I come from is giving your mother money, paying her bills, taking her out to dinner, buying her some flowers, shoveling the sidewalk, buying her something, getting her a new car, buying her a new house, whatever you have. Money and respecting your mother and your parents is like this in my culture. Your culture is maybe different. And I'm sure many other cultures are like that. And what you need money to be kind to your mother. What can you do for your mother and you're broke, you're poor, you have no money? Last but not least, he says, وَيُؤْتِ مِنْهُ حَقَّهُ, and money allows the human being to give the haqq of wealth. And that is zakah, and that's sadaqah. The zakah and the sadaqah. And what does the Quran and the Sunnah teach us about the zakah and the sadaqah? And he mentions other statements regarding the virtue of money to the Salaf al-Salih. The author says, وَحَاصِلُ الْأَمْرِ, and in brief, he says the similitude of wealth is like that of a snake, a viper, a serpent, a venomous snake. The similitude of wealth is like that of a snake that has venom, sum. And we all know about snakes. And I don't think, as men, we have to talk about snakes and the different types of snakes and some of the most venomous snakes in the world. Whether it is the North American diamondback or the swamp adder or the bushmaster, whatever the name, the black mamba, different types of snakes. Cobra isn't even the most venomous snake. There's snakes that have 10 times more venom and it's much more deadly and it can kill you within minutes. He says that money is like a snake. In the snake are two things, two substances. There is tiryak and then there's sum. There's venom that can kill and paralyze. And in the same snake, subhanAllah, there is the antidote. There's medicine. There's the cure in one animal. He says, so the good of wealth is like the antidote. And if you read medicine and study the history of medicine, read about medicine, especially the ancient Chinese, which were considered to be at one point in time pioneers in the field of medicine. Reading about ancient China and how they mastered medicine. A major ingredient in many medicines and remedies came from snakes. The gallbladder of the snake, the skin of the snake. Many things they extracted from a snake. Rather, there are even hadiths in which the concept of using snakes for or against is mentioned. The snake in its body is well known in many, many ancient medicines. But at the same time, if you mismanage the snake, if you don't handle it properly, how can you get the snake without it hitting you with those deadly fangs? How those needles that unhinge in his mouth. It can kill you within seconds, and it can save someone's life. And that's the similitude of money. And that's also the similitude of what? Social media. If you use it for good, then it is an awesome thing. It's fantastic, no question about that. What you can learn on social media, how you can teach someone on social media, medicine, all types of things you can see from Allah's earth through social media. And if you use it for bad, or not even if you use it, but if you allow the social media to use you, if you allow social media to use you, social media can destroy you. You can ruin your life in 5 minutes. Less than that. Less than that. All it takes is one video, one thing to hear, one thing to see, one person to meet up with, and it destroys your life forever. Don't we know, when we talk about drugs and addiction to substances, it only takes one drink, one puff for a lifetime of misery. And the same applies to social media. You're watching something and then something pops up, or you look for something to look for that's haram, and you can't get off of that thing for the rest of your life. It's a reality. You may fall into a pit easily, and it's not so hard getting out of that pit. That's social media. So social media has its virtue and it has its vice. Social media, it has its ups, and for sure it has its downs. So if that's the case, then one of the most important principles of using social media, and a lot of the Quran and Sunnah, is always going to be balance and moderation. Balance and moderation. Iyakum wal ghulu. The Prophet ﷺ says, beware of extremism. فَإِنَّمَا أَهْلَكَ مَنْ كَانَ قَبْلَكُمُ الْغُلُو. For the only thing that destroyed the previous nations was extremism. Don't go extreme. وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ أُمَّةً وَسَطًا. A balanced nation, which is most just, pious and just, in the middle, neither far to the right nor to the left, just in the middle. Balance. La taghlu fi dinikum. Allah says in the Quran, do not be extreme zealots in your religion. So if I'm on social media for 5 minutes versus 5 hours, I'm on social media because this is my job, versus I'm on social media because I want to waste time, I want to burn time, I want to kill time, I'm bored. I'm on social media talking to a sister because I want to get married to her, according to the Quran and the Sunnah. And it's difficult to get married where I am. I can't find a wife, or whatever the reason is, versus I'm on social media chatting with a woman, talking with a woman, trading pictures and videos with a woman, and I have no intention of zawaj. Or the marriage is nearly impossible to take place in the real world, and I'm just talking to her and conversating and laughing and joking and looking at her, and she's looking at me. There's a huge difference. So balance and moderation is principle number 1 with regards to social media. With all of its good and with all of its bad, balance. Do not be a slave of social media. Do not be on social media 24/7. And unfortunately, there are many people like this, no doubt. Some people, they go to sleep with their phones in their hands. They go to sleep with their phones, right? You're thinking about it, huh? Under your pillow, on your chest. There's a clinical condition for fear, of phobia, mobile phobia, in which a person freaks out. Yo, where's my phone? Where's my phone? Where's my phone at? Wait, stop. Where's my phone? Is this not the case? You get out of a car, you're in an Uber. What's the first thing you look for is your what? Your what? No doubt, your phone. You go to sleep, you wake up on a plane, the first thing you think about is your what? Your phone. The most secure thing that you have of your possessions is your what? Your phone. People don't travel with locks on their suitcases or their bags or their wallets. Phone, retina, passcode, fingertip. They secure their phones. And the worst thing that you can do to someone is to have them sit in a place with no phone. It's the worst thing. That's why when you come to the airport, you're in JFK, and they want to hold you up, whether you're a foreigner, whether you're visiting, or whether they're holding you up because you're an Islamic personality, they take your electronics from you. And they say, do not use your phones. You can't call no one. You can't text no one. I'm stuck here. Don't take any pictures. It's punishment. Or being stuck somewhere there's no internet. Or even worse than that, slow internet, like a turtle. It's crawling. You try to send someone a picture and the thing keeps spinning. Right? It keeps spinning and then it fails. And then you start it again and does what? It spins again. The internet is so slow, you'd rather have no internet. People become addicted to their phones. The first thing when they wake up, post, Instagram, Facebook. Last thing to do before they go to sleep, Instagram, Facebook. I ate this, I did this, fulan, fulana, shoes, kullu shay is on social media. That's a bit extreme. Rather, I'm on social media in the morning, assalamu alaikum, kayf halik, so on and so forth. We're on our way, we're coming. How was your day? You have a family member, you have a loved one, you have a friend, you have a student. Tayyib, mashi. I want to shop, I want to buy my wife something, I want to buy my husband something, I want to take my kids out to a nice place to eat, to an amusement park. I want to look at the reviews. Labas. But being on social media 24/7, being a slave of Facebook, a slave of YouTube, something's wrong. So that's the first Islamic ruling with regards to social media. If you do not respect the balance and the moderation, and you have ghulu, then obviously social media is going to be haram. Just like anything else in which you do excessively, and you do it in extremism. Everyone understand this? La taghlu fi dinikum. Don't go extreme. Everybody clear on this or not? And the same applies to your teenagers and your young children. Me personally, I'm not against the internet for children, 100%. I'm not against the internet or even phones for teenagers and young children. I'm not against that. Because when you shelter them unnecessarily and you go extreme in protecting them from the real world, they cannot cope with it when it's presented to them. They can't deal with it when it's thrown and hurled at them for the first time. Whoa, all this time I've been missing this. And they immediately melt and become vaporized when they get the first taste of it. Instead of teaching your children, listen son, this is the real world. This is what you can watch and this is what you cannot watch. Putting a block on the computer, putting a block on their phone, giving them limited things. No, now it's time to give me the phone back. It's time to go to sleep. You've been on the phone enough today. You've been on the iPad enough today. You've played enough games. That's one thing. Balance. And when you say no phone, no social media, 100%, there lies no doubt you're no longer what? You're no longer what? You're no longer balanced. And to be extreme in this direction is just as bad as being extreme what? In the other direction. Everyone understand this? Pay close attention. Someone who's unsuited for a phone, that's one thing. They're too young to do it by themselves. We don't argue with that. But someone who's of the age in which they can understand and they can have basic responsibility. For you to go extreme in preventing them from social media is just as bad as going extreme and letting them do anything they want on social media. And that's because when you go extreme, sometimes you spark someone's curiosity. What's this thing that my father wants me to stay away from at all costs? What is it? Why is he so crazy me not being on it? It has to be something what? Major and cool. And everyone else does it. In the madrasa, in the tahfidh, in the duksi, in the public school. Everyone is on it. My father doesn't want me on it, so it has to be something. So sometimes you push someone to the other extreme. Extremism never brings good, guys, ever. Rather, teach and educate your children. Discipline your children. Teach your children about self-control. Their friends should only be Muslims, pious, righteous Muslims. You shouldn't have no non-Muslim friends. And that's a long discussion with regards to al-bara wal-wala. Living in Western countries in which non-Muslims are friends of your children. That's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. So the point I'm trying to get to is the first principle is balance. Number two. The second principle regarding social media is that social media and its rulings isn't new. You don't need a lecture. You don't need me to speak about this. What's the ruling on lying in Islam? Can you be a liar? Can you tell lies? What's the ruling on looking at the opposite sex in an inappropriate manner or unnecessary manner? What's the ruling on looking at the same sex in an inappropriate or unnecessary manner? What's the ruling on stealing and cheating? What's the ruling on selling something that you don't own? What's the ruling of missing prayers? What's the ruling? What's the ruling? What's the ruling? What's the ruling? None of these things are now different because it's done in social media. You can't lie in person, nor can you lie on social media. You're not allowed to look at this sister with her khimar off in real life, nor are you allowed to look at her with her khimar off on social media. If you're buying something and selling something, you can't sell something which you do not own. It's haram to do that. You're either an agent for the owner or you own it yourself. And that's another problem with regards to mortgages and buying houses and financing cars. Many people, they think that the only problem is riba, which is a major problem, of course. It's a major sin. But there are many, many other problems in the financial world besides riba. It's not just riba. Shaitan tricks people to think that it's only riba to stay away from. Abadan. There are 20 other things that are haram in the bank besides riba. And from that is them selling you something which they don't own themselves. That's impermissible in al-Islam. So if you can't do it hand to hand with dates and barley, a camel or a cow, the same applies to online. You can't sell something that you don't own. I represent this company. I have access to them. This is the fee that I take as a wakil, an agent. This is the description of the product, etc. Everyone understand this? So nothing is different on social media. The rules are the same rules. Being a pathological, habitual liar, spreading rumors, making up stories is unlawful. On social media or off social media. What's the ruling? If you ask me a question and I don't know the answer and I make up an answer, I invent the answer. I'm too shy, I'm too scared to say, La adri, I don't know. Is that haram or halal? Is that not a major sin? وَأَن تَقُولَ عَلَى اللَّهِ مَا لَا تَعْلَمُونَ? For you to say about Allah that which you don't know. وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ. Don't go near that which you have no knowledge of, Allah says. It's haram, right? And it's also haram for someone to ask me a question and for me to give them a fatwa and I don't have the proper knowledge. So oftentimes we fall into the pit of social media by looking at it as something new. It's like a product. Coca-Cola, we were talking about at lunch today. Coca-Cola versus Pepsi, huh? Which is more popular? Which is sweeter? Which is more classic? Coca-Cola has had the same recipe of soda for maybe 100 years now, and Allah knows best. Pepsi has the same recipe from 100 years ago. But how many different logos have they changed? Bottles, cans, sizes, plastic. It's the same drink. It's the same cola. But the form, the outside is new. It's modified. But if you look at it as a different drink, then you're going to be disappointed when you open it up and it's the same drink. And the same applies to social media. You cannot make zina, cyber sex, right? It's the same as making zina in person. You can't be in contact with that woman. She's not your wife. You can't be showing each other's body parts. That's haram. There's no special ruling just because it's social media. You can't cheat, you can't steal, you can't give fatwa, you can't give durus if you're unqualified on social media, just like you can't do it what? In real life. But many times and oftentimes we look at it differently. We place a different scope, and that which leads us to slipping. Everyone understand the point I'm trying to get to? It's the same. It's just a platform and a means of doing the things that people do in real life. Everyone understand this or not? Everybody clear on this? Everyone with me or not? And the same applies to taking pictures and videos. Is pictures or picture taking, is that halal or haram? Is it permissible to do a video or not? This camera sitting in front of me and sitting right there and sitting over there. Is it permissible or impermissible? So the rulings are all the same. The last thing that I want to mention is, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, as with regards to a da'wah ila Allah, calling to Allah, the sublime and the most high. Making da'wah, calling the people to Allah, the mighty and the most high. What is our position? What is our attitude? And what is our stance regarding social media? Should we give durus on Facebook and YouTube? Should we make videos of khutbahs and lessons and lectures? Or only in the masjid? Is it a bad thing for a person to show his face when he talks and speaks to people? Or that's a haram thing? You can't do that. The people have to come and search your knowledge in front of you at your feet. What's going to happen if the Muslims don't become involved with the current technology, except that they'll become lost and left behind, oftentimes, which they already are, like nuclear program. Why can't this country have nuclear weapons? Why is it fair for you to have nuclear weapons, but we can't have nuclear weapons? Those powerful countries that have nuclear weapons, do you know what they say? There are many things that they say, and one of the reasons they say is no need for you to have them. It would take you 30 years to develop a good program. 20 years, 40 years. And by the time you develop your own program, guess what's going to happen? We're going to what? Our program is going to be what? Light years ahead of you. So what's the point of you having them? You're too behind in the race. There's no point in you having them. You can't do anything to us with your crude weapons. We're way ahead of you. By the time you even come close to us, we'll be what? Way beyond you again. Everyone understand this? And that's because those countries, they didn't get involved in the program in the beginning. It's too late to catch up. Everyone understand this is what? It's too late to catch up. And the same applies to anything else of the dunya, of technology, banking, financing. Sometimes the Muslims are so stuck in the past. By the time they wake up and get involved, the non-Muslims are what? Gone beyond them. We're looking at their dust. And we can drive as fast as we want, but they already had what? 10, 20, 30-year head start. I don't understand the problem. Medicine is no different. It's no different in medicine. We make a hospital in this country. Our new modern state-of-the-art hospital to them is considered to be a clinic. Do we understand what this means? In this third world country, this state-of-the-art hospital in this country is a polyclinic. Crude and outdated. It's a dinosaur. It's reality. So if the Muslims don't get involved with the changing, progressing world, they're going to get stuck in the past. And once they're stuck in the past, they're always going to be at the mercy of the non-Muslims. And they're going to need to beg and get on their knees and ask for non-Muslims to teach them and to show them. And the same applies to Dawah. The same applies to Dawah. If you allow the non-Muslims to talk about the Muslims, to talk about the Prophet shamelessly, waliyadhu billah, to talk about the Quran shamelessly, to mock the deen, and we sit back and say we can't get involved in social media. There's no real knowledge on YouTube. We shouldn't have platforms. Facebook is a fitna. That's it. What's going to happen? If we allow Muslims, who are Muslims, but they're misguided, unfortunately, and they're upon bid'ah, haqiqatan, real bid'ah, not attacking Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and backbiting students of knowledge and scholars and saying they're Ahlul Bid'ah. But we're talking about real, true Ahlul Bid'ah. People that are spreading innovations. If we allow them to dominate the social media platforms and to have the TV stations and this and that, and then we sit back and say, oh, Ahlul Bid'ah, they've taken over our country. Ahlul Bid'ah, they're spreading their shubuhat. You're sitting back doing nothing about it and fighting and squabbling. So you can't say nothing. You can't become upset. So dawah ila Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no one form. There is no one way of doing it. As long as it's dawah to Allah, the Mighty and the Most High. If it's through a book, if it's through a lecture, if it's through a video, if it's through a post, if it's through a faida, social media should be used for calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But as I just said, the same rules of real life dawah are the same rules of social media. Don't speak unless you're qualified. Call to Allah and do not call to your organization and yourself. Know your worth. Know your level. You have no business speaking on this and talking about this. You haven't studied anywhere formally. You have nothing tangible under your belt. Giving an iman booster, a reminder, alhamdulillah, labas. This is halal. This person is guided. He's misguided. This country, they're kuffar, etc. No. وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ. Stay away from that stuff. Just like you had to stay away from it in person. And the list goes on. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to enlighten us and to open our minds and open our hearts and to guide us to the straight path. We ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to protect our children from the harms of social media, which there are many. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to guide our children to benefit from the good things in social media and be aware of the different addictions and the problems that come from social media, and that can only take place by us educating ourselves and being aware and enlightening ourselves and teaching our children and showing them the good versus the bad, and asking Allah to allow them to make the proper decision and taking the necessary discipline as well and enforcing the rules when we have the ability to enforce them. We ask Allah to protect our children from becoming victims and allow our children to be the pioneers and the trailblazers of calling to Islam and propagating Islam in person and via means of social media. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Jazakumullah khairan. Salam. Are there questions, brothers, before everybody gets up? Are there any questions on the topic or off the topic? Are there any questions on the topic or off the topic before we go? Tight. Well, let's let everyone benefit from it, inshallah. If there are any questions, now is the time. If there are any questions, now is the time. Bi-idhnillah. Tafadhal, akhi. طيب. Bismillah. Question says, what is the ruling on trimming and lining up your beard? Before we answer the question, please go back to the videos that we've done on the topic in which we've explained this in detail on Hadith Disciple. Inshallah, you go through the videos and search a brief discussion on trimming and shaving the beard. You'll find the video. There's more than one video we've done on it. In detail, we've spoken on this. But we're going to answer the question now. If you haven't seen it, please go back to them. And if you have, then we'll answer the question if you still need further clarification, inshallah. Al-Muhim is that in brief, the beard should be left to grow naturally. Let the beard grow naturally. As the Prophet says, Arkhul liha. Arkhul liha. Irkha. When you have curtains in your house, the curtain does what? Does gravity discriminate against the curtain? Once you hang up the curtain, what does the curtain do? Does half of the curtain fall down? Is it suspended 3/4? Or does gravity automatically pull the curtain down? And the curtain begins to what? Hang. It dangles. That's what the Prophet, that was the words that he used. Arkhu. Let your hair dangle. Let your hair grow long and let it stay there by gravity. That's the bottom line. That's the best thing to do. That's the safest thing to do. You avoid any differences of opinion, fatawa, madhahib, fulan, alan, etc. That is ahsan for you to, is to let the beard grow naturally and organically. And the Prophet ﷺ also says in the authentic hadith Zayd ibn Arqam in the Sunan of Imam al-Tirmidhi and al-Nasa'i, مَنْ لَمْ يَأْخُذْ مِنْ شَارِبِهِ فَلَيْسَ مِنَّا. It says the one who doesn't trim his mustache has nothing to do with us. The one who does not trim his mustache has nothing to do with us. Then obviously, unfortunately, there are many brothers that be watching online, or brothers sitting in the musalla who don't trim their mustaches, or who may shave their beards or trim their beards. I'm not here talking about anyone specifically, nor am I here to talk about culture, nor am I here to discuss different madhabs and this sheikh and fulan and the beard is and everything. And who, I'm not here to talk about none of that. إنما أنا مبلغ عن أهل العلم. I'm nothing more than someone who's conveying what the ulama of Islam say regarding the beard and regarding the mustache. And first and foremost, before Ahlul Ilm, An-Nabi al-Kareem, alayhi salatu wasalam, Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So it's not something which is weird and out of sight to go and see Muslim men with very large mustaches and shaven faces, or totally shaven face. And it's not weird and it's not strange, unfortunately, for you to hear someone say, يعني هذا من القشور. This isn't a really important issue. This is on the surface. أنت إنسان سطحي. You're just on the surface. الدين المعاملة, الدين الخلق, الإيمان في القلب. Knowledge or religion is in the heart. Faith is in the heart. The beard is not important. No one cares. The beard is only makruh to shave, etc., etc. You'll hear this. But the Prophet, he said, he who does not trim his mustache is not from us. That's a strong wording. It's a strong wording for the Prophet to say, Laysa minna. Man ghashana falaysa minna. Man hamala alayna silaha falaysa minna. Man tashabbah biqawmin fahuwa minhum. Man raghiba an sunnati falaysa minni. Laysa minna man ila akhirih. When the Prophet says he's not from us, she's not from us, the woman who scratches her face and rips up her clothes and yanks out her hair at the time of funeral, it's not from us. That's not something which is makruh. It's just disliked. That's serious for the Prophet to say, you're not from me. So many people, unfortunately, they don't know of these hadiths, or they know about them but they choose to disregard them. And they have many evil scholars who mislead them and tell them all types of misinformation or bad information. And we all know the history of the Muslim countries and how they were colonized by France, by Great Britain, by Italy, by Germany, by Spain, by Portugal. We all know what happened in the Congo, Leopold, King Leopold. These countries were colonized by these European powers. And they colonized them physically, and most, or even more dangerously, they colonized them mentally. They conquered their minds. إِلَّا مَا رَحِمَ رَبِّي. Except for the few people whom Allah was merciful to, that refused to be colonized physically or mentally. And they fought back and they resisted on one level or another. But most of them, unfortunately, they just won't want the flow. Having a beard is dirty and disgusting. Having a beard is dirty and disgusting. Eating with your hands is dirty and disgusting, uncivilized. We must have silverware. And the list goes on. And it's not just the Muslim countries. In the Far East, China. Look what happened when the Europeans went to China. Look at the atrocities that were done because of colonization. The rape of Nanking and Shanghai, World War II, imperial conquest of Japan was nothing more than a fruit of European colonization. But they won't suck up to that. They won't accept that. All the people that were killed and destroyed because of them trying to reverse the role of the European colonization. So that's how it is. So many Muslims today, they shave their beards, they grow their mustaches long, or they have no mustaches whatsoever. And oftentimes it's because of history. They were taught and they were educated that a beard is dirty and nasty. And to have a clean shaven face is a sign of cleanliness and hygiene. Insan mutaqaddim mutatawwir, rajul aniq, a gentleman, a man who's modern and not some woolly savage with a beard. This was the brainwash that has affected so many Muslims, unfortunately. And not only is it just a brainwash with normal Muslims, but it became so bad in which there are scholars of Islam that were brainwashed. Scholars of Islam that were bought and purchased. Bought out and purchased to give them fatwa and to tell them it's okay to do it. It's not from the deen. It's not important. It's only, and it's only, and it's only. This is a reality. So before you get into can you trim it, can you shave it, can you line it up, you must know the history of the beard. And it's not just Muslims. Read history and you'll find the importance and the status of the beard to non-Muslims in the past. Don't take it from me. Wallahi, don't take it from me. Read it yourselves. You'd be shocked what the Hindus say about beards, and what Sikhs and what older Christians and Jews say about the beard and what it symbolizes for a man. You'd be shocked. We read about what women thought about a man who had a beard and how a man looked at who didn't have a beard and the psychology behind a beard. Read it and you'll find shocking information. So therefore, we have to understand that the beard has become a major controversial issue. How did pieces of hair, how did it become an issue of wala and bara, love and hate? You're wrong, you're good, you're welcome, you're not welcome. How did the Muslims go so far? In which if you have a beard, you're a terrorist or you're an extremist. And if you have a clean shaven face, then you're peaceful and you're kind. How did the Muslims get like this? So you have to understand the history of the issue. So with regards to letting the beard grow, then we have instruction from the Prophet ﷺ. And I've given you two pieces already. Trim the mustache and let the beard grow. That's the best thing to do. As far as the actual question, is it haram to trim the beard? Is it haram to shape it up and to line it up? I would say that one who has a beard and he shapes it up and he trims it is better than the one who has no beard. One who has a bushy beard and he makes it nice and he grooms it is better than someone who has a 2 o'clock shadow. And the one who has a 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock shadow is better than the man who shaves. No question about that. And the one who has a long beard and he trims it and he does the qabdah, he does this, is better than the one who has the bushy groomed beard. They're levels. وَلِكُلٍّ darajat. Allah says in the Quran, everyone has a daraja, a level. So if you have a level of knowledge and of piety and of righteousness, and you're trying to live the lifestyle of the sunnah, then do what I told you to do. Trim your mustache and let your beard grow. And you'll look handsome. And your wife, inshallah ta'ala, if she's on the same level, she'll love your beard. And if you're not married and you're looking for a wife, if she's pious and righteous, she'll find beauty in you having a full beard. And she'll find ugliness in you having a shaven face. But if you're not on that level, then do what you can. If you're not on that level of knowledge and of ilm and of trying to implement the sunnah, then having some hair on your face is better than nothing. No doubt about that. And there are some scholars of Islam who say that a man can trim his beard. And there are some scholars of Islam who say that a man can line up his beard. There are some scholars. Some of them, they say that this is you implementing the hadith. But I don't believe that to be correct. And I think that that is nonsense and a waste of time. For the Prophet ﷺ to say, A'fun liha, Let the beards be. Leave the beards. Arkhur liha. Utrukul liha. Many wordings of this authentic hadith in Bukhari and outside of Sahih Bukhari. The Prophet ﷺ never ever said, have a beard. And he never ever said, be a bearded man. He said, leave the beard. So these ulama, they say, if you have some hair on your face, no matter how low it may be, 2 o'clock shadow, 1 o'clock shadow, 3 o'clock shadow, they say you've implemented the hadith. And when someone sees you in the street, they say he has a beard. If you were in court and there was a witness, who's the killer? Who did it? Said it was that one. Just like I said, he has a beard. And you have to have a really big beard. Did the Prophet say that? Did he say, have hair on your face? Did the Prophet ﷺ say, be a bearded man? Did the Prophet ﷺ say, allow someone to point you out with having hair on your face? He never said that. He said, fool, leave it alone. Don't touch it. So it doesn't make any sense, and that's distortion to the hadith. Tahrif. It's distortion for the Nabi al-Karim to say, let the beard fall, and you say, have some hair on your face. Leave me alone. Don't touch me. Leave me alone. That's not the same as I'm not feeling too well. Right or wrong? I'm in a bad mood. You come, you give me a pat on the back, right? A hug. I say, all right, I'm not feeling that well. You want to go hang out? You want to go get something to eat? No, I'm not feeling that well. But you're talking to me. That's not the same as me saying what? What do I say to you? I say what? Leave me alone. Don't bother me. Don't touch me. Don't call me. How can you say that means, I can give you a hug, but don't hug you too hard? I can come over your house and we can have tea and coffee, but not too much. And I clearly said what? Leave me alone. So that doesn't make any sense. So therefore, the prophetic sunnah is to trim the mustache and to allow the beard to grow long. The next level after that is to trim the mustache and to allow the beard to grow long and trim it if it exceeds one's fist. That opinion and that view has some validity to it. And that's because there are many of the Sahaba and the Muslims who came after the Sahaba and many of those companions who narrated the hadith of leaving the beard alone, they did it. And they say they're not disobeying the Prophet, but that's the correct understanding of that hadith. Let it grow long unless it exceeds the what? The fist. But obviously the first view is the safest view. Leave it alone. Leave me what? Leave me alone, right? The next level are those brothers who do have beards, and they know that it's haram to shave, and it's consensus that it's haram to shave, but they can't have a full beard because of their jobs. Or maybe his wife gives him a tough time. I'll allow you to have that, but I can't have a really super long beard. That's too much. I'm sorry. And he may be afraid or maybe scared. He doesn't want to displease his wife. We're talking reality now, guys. His wife may not be on the same level of his piety. And that's why I said that to you. It depends on what level you're on. His wife may not be on that level. Or he may live in a place in which he's going to be extremely profiled by having a really long beard. But at least he's not shaven. We say, Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. In light of people shaving their faces, you're doing something better than the next person. But that's not the pinnacle. That's not the top level. And that's not the Prophet ﷺ's what? Command in his order. And we all know that the Prophet has warned us against disobeying him. He's warned us against disobeying him. He has told us that he says, وَأَنَا النَّذِيرُ الْعُرْيَانِ. He says, I'm the naked warner. I'm the plain warner. In other words, the Arabs, in the past, whenever there was a raid, people were coming to conquer them, to enslave their women and children, kill their men. They had lookouts. They had posts, scouts to see an approaching army. And when, for one reason or another, when that army got too close and so close, and they didn't make the necessary preparations, and the enemy was very close, and they were about to attack, the one standing in that tower or on that mountaintop, he would take his clothes off to show everyone that run, get away. It's too late to fight. It's too late to put up a strategic defense. Everyone understand this? An-nadhirul uryan. He says, those who obey me is one thing, and those who disobey me, he says, sabahakum wa masakum. He says that the enemy will come, he will conquer you, and he will take you over. Those who don't obey me and don't follow my commands. So the Prophet says in this one hadith, and in many other hadiths in which he explains to us the danger of disobeying Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's not a small issue. It's not a trivial issue. You could drink alcohol and no one can know. I drink at night, I get sober, I come outside, assalamu alaikum. But if I shave my face, everyone sees the disobedience that I made. Everyone can see that I was disobeying Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Let alone that I have to look in the mirror when I shave my face. You may drink alcohol, you may make zina, you may do haram things, and you never look at yourself. It may hurt you to look at your face. Astaghfirullah. It's reality. But you shave your face, you see yourself disobeying Muhammad's words. So shaving the face and not having no hair on your face is a major, major, major problem. We've discussed this in many other lectures. At the end of the day, learn what the Prophet said. Understand what the Prophet said. And if the Prophet was alive and sitting in front of you, would you be pleased to sit in front of him with no hair on your face? Would you feel out of place if Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali were all sitting there with big beards, with henna in their beards, and you had a shaven face? How would you feel? How would you look in front of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So learn about the Prophet's words, learn about what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam did, learn how big his beard was, and he was the most handsome of men. And inshallah ta'ala, that will lead you to the correct decision. But until you get to that level, until you get to that stage, or it's too difficult, or it's already enough fight for you to do that, then do that until you what? Get onto that level. But if you wanted to know the true answer, lining up your face is you're shaving hair off of your face. Lining it up is shaving it. Trimming it is cutting it. So it shouldn't be done. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Fadal akhi.
That's related to the principle that you can't sell something that we do not own. What's the permissibility of acting as a seller online using dropshipping?
The question about selling something that you don't own. Selling something online using drop shipping. Whatever term is used, whatever the concept is, if you do not own it, you cannot sell it. You're either going to be a representative of the owner. I speak on his behalf. Pay me, the money we get to him, you get the product. If that's what you call, or that's your concept of drop selling or drop shipping, then that's permissible. Or it's clearly established that this is a third party. A third party. We represent, or not even represent, we are in contact with them. That's one thing. But it has to be known and has to be established that it is not your product. Dealing with it, being the middleman, that's one thing. But you representing like it's your product, and you may not have the product, you may not have the ability to give it, or may not be the necessary description, that's problematic. So you go on Amazon. Who do you pay your money to? You have an account with who? With who? Your account is with who? Amazon. Does Amazon own every product? Some products they'll say, and some products they'll say it's a what? It's a different story. So it depends on transparency and clarity. Whatever the category or whatever the word or the terminology is being used, drop shipping, whatever you want to call it, it's just that simple. Unless it's necessity. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Fadl akhi. Question is regarding advice regarding female relatives. Mujib, can you do me a favor, please? Can you get the rest of the questions from Nafis, the paper? Giving advice to female relatives on taking hijab more seriously, etc. Jazakallah khairan for the question. I would say it depends on your relationship with those female relatives. If it's someone that you're close with, just shukran. Thank you. Someone that you're close with, you have a good relationship with, be straight up. Be upfront. Tell your aunt how much you love her and how much you care about her. You don't need a long introduction. Just give her advice. Tell her what's the truth. And if she loves you and you love her, she may not accept it, she may not do it, but she's not going to reject you and say, be quiet. Because she knows that you're only speaking out of compassion. If it's someone that you don't have a good relationship with, then obviously use more wisdom. Use more wisdom. Be more gentle. Be less direct and more indirect. If it's someone who has a great deal of intelligence and they can pick up on the signs, that's one thing. Some people, they may not get the message unless you blatantly say it to them. At the end of the day, there are two main aspects or concepts that we have. Number one is compassion and love for people. Number two is fear for your own soul. I don't want my aunt or my sister or my cousin to be punished by Allah for disobeying His commands to wear hijab. And number two, I don't want to stand in front of Allah on the day of judgment and be asked, why didn't I tell my aunt or my sister or my cousin or my mother about wearing hijab or the proper hijab? So whichever of those two is strongest, follow it and tell them. You don't have to abuse them. You don't have to insult them. You don't have to make fun of them. You don't have to beat them upside their head with a club or a stick. Just tell them. Some people directly, others indirectly. Oftentimes get someone else to speak to them. Or, Omi, I saw this video online. Can you sit down and watch it with me? And it may be a setup. You know, in this Mufti Q&A, the question comes out about hijab. But it's the fourth question in the live stream, right? And you know that it's coming. 10 minutes and 20 seconds, right? And she watches it. But if you say, I want to talk to you about hijab, I want to give you advice, that's a flimsy hijab that you got on, she may not sit down with you. So it depends on the person. And this is all included in the law statement, أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة. With basira. معرفة أحوال المدعوين. Is that you know the state and the circumstance of the people whom you're calling. Everyone is not called the same way. Everyone's mind isn't the same. People have different tastes, different cultures, different levels of intelligence. A professional, white-collar, blue-collar people are different. And speak with them and deal with them differently. If that doesn't work, and you don't have this grand strategy, then just say it. Even if it turns into a fight and an argument, free yourself in front of Allah. And establish the fact that I tried. That way you're not punished on Yawm al-Qiyamah. And obviously, last but not least, is make sure you lead a good example yourself. Make sure that you lead a good example yourself. Make sure that you're a righteous son, a pious son. Make sure that you never disrespect your mother and your father. Make sure that you dress like a Muslim and you are modest and shy in how you dress. Lead by example, inshallah, and Allah knows best. Question says, how do you deal with people telling you not to listen to so-and-so because they are refuted? And on the other hand, people tell you take the good and leave the bad when you do not have full knowledge. And you probably will not have that full knowledge. It's very simple and it's very easy. Read the hadith of Salman radiallahu ta'ala anhu, in which he went on a spiritual quest, a spiritual journey. His father loved him. His father was very wealthy. And his father was very fond of Salman. And his father gave Salman an honor by looking after the fire. And he told Salman that I love you. And if anything happened to you, I wouldn't know how to deal with it. Don't leave this house. Don't leave my estate. Don't go nowhere. But Salman radiallahu anhu, he knew deep down inside that he was uncomfortable. Worshipping fire or worshipping spirits pertaining to a fire, it just doesn't feel right. So Salman, he disobeyed his father and he left. And he encountered different groups, different cultures and different religions. Whether it's the Jews or the Christians, these people, those people, etc. And until he was enslaved and sold as a slave when he reached Arabia. And they told him about this man whose name was Muhammad. And what was his description. And what type of person he was. And what type of person he wasn't. And Salman radiallahu anhu, he had a few questions. And he had a few ways of testing to see if this man was truly the man that he had heard about. And once he found it and he discovered it, he accepted Islam. Was Salman the most knowledgeable? Was he the most learned? No, he was not. But he was sincere. And he also had common sense. And he also knew the concept of intuition, the feeling, this doesn't feel right. So when it comes to YouTubers or speakers or sheikhs or da'is, whoever they are, use those principles. Are you sincere? Do you know how much Allah will protect you and keep you safe just off of sincerity? That you want good. And I just don't want to be entertained. I want to learn, I want to benefit, and I want to follow the correct path in Islam. Allah will bless you and protect you. And also use common sense. How can this person be a sheikh or a scholar? And look what he just said. Look what he's calling to. Look what he's involved with. Look what his dawah leads to. He's been teaching us for all of these years. Where are we right now? What do we have? How do we benefit from this call? Use your head, not as a scholar, but as a basic, simple person with common sense. Last but not least is the gut feeling, the intuition. You can feel when someone knows what they're talking about. You can feel when someone is trying to call you to be a part of their clique and their gang and their group. You can feel when someone is pushing you to learn and you to benefit yourself and not just always rely and depend on me. You can feel that, even if it's a little bit. But the human being has a very strong ability, an innate ability to have the gut feeling. This feels good. I left the class, wallahi, I feel good. I feel pious. I feel closer to Allah after I listened to that khutbah. I sat with this person for a week. It's the best week of my life. I've learned, I've benefited. Rather, oh yeah, we're with the sheikh and this brother and he's teaching us and he's going to go over this, and you don't feel anything. You feel the same. You may feel even a harder heart than how you came. Something's wrong. Last but not least is to know the basic fundamentals. There are many things of truth and falsehood, right and wrong, that you can decipher just based off of common sense and based off of basic principles of Islam, the fundamental principles of Islam. So if you have those tools, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, if you're misled for some time or you're studying with someone that you shouldn't be, it's nothing but a matter of time before you leave that person, because you'll determine that it isn't right without no one else telling you. Secondly is trust. There may be someone that you trust. I trust this person's religion. I think he knows a lot. And I think this person is sincere as well. And he told me you shouldn't listen to this person. He may be wrong, but I trust him. I respect him. So I want to take his advice. No sin upon you, bi'idhnillahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. Last but not least is the sheer fact that someone has been refuted does not demand, nor does it necessitate that you cannot study and learn from them. Just because someone has been refuted. Refutation means nothing. A person could be refuted and the refuter was wrong and they were right. A person could be refuted and those who refuted him are lying and making things up. Huh, Omar? I never said that, right? I didn't say that. And the proof that I didn't say it, go back to the video, 35 minutes, 25 seconds. I never said that. You've lied on me. So just because someone shoots and hurls an attack at someone doesn't mean that they're automatically unsuited to teach. That's wrong. That's false. Everyone understand this? And this is what the people say. He's been refuted. How was he refuted? With science, with ilm, refutation that's correct, or someone wrote an article against them. So it's automatically what? Khalas, you've been refuted. Imam al-Bukhari was refuted. But does that mean Bukhari was wrong and they were right? No. Imam al-Nasa'i was refuted. Does that mean they were right and he was wrong? Does not mean that. Maybe they were, maybe they weren't. But it doesn't what? It doesn't necessitate that. Just because someone does the sheer act of refutation, it doesn't mean that they are wrong and the refuter is right. Just like a court. Everyone understand this? This person is on trial. It does not mean that he did the crime until it's proven scientifically through a court of law that he did it. Prosecution and defense. Everyone understand this? Just because they have him at the crime scene doesn't mean he did the crime. What common sense are we using? If we're not, what are we thinking here? He's been refuted. Don't take from him. Okay, and? He's been refuted and proven to be misguided? That's a different story. That's what? That's a different story. But the sheer fact of refuted, stamp, that's stupidity. And oftentimes you don't even realize that the sheikh that you're following, I'm not going to say worshiping, but the sheikh that you're following, or the students or the da'i that you're following, they also have been what? Refuted. Well, what about Sheikh Fulan? He refuted. Oh, no, he wasn't right. No, the refutation wasn't correct. No, that. So now the rule applies now, but it doesn't what? Doesn't apply before. That's nonsense. And I can take you to my library, and I'll show you a 500-page refutation of the sheikh, and a 20-tape refutation of the sheikh, and a 20-year-old refutation, and tons of refutations, and all of them are batil. But the sheer thing that they say about this one is automatically what? Haq. It's an immature game. And many people, they play that game. Secondly is, a person may be refuted. Maybe he did make a mistake. Maybe a person did say something that's wrong. Does that mean that he's no longer of any benefit to the Muslims? One simple mistake, one error, and that's it. Everything is done. Is that the way of Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah? Is that what the Khawarij said and believed about Iman? If you make one sin, all of your Iman goes away. Did Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, did they have that principle? That absolute one thing takes away everything? Where is this coming from? Let alone the fact that there are mistakes that this scholar made. without a refutation, but clearly proven it's a mistake. It's a khata. And this da'iyah, he made this mistake. Look at the translation. It's clearly wrong what he did, and he wasn't refuted. So don't take from him. They say, oh, you're slandering them. You're talking about the people of the Sunnah. You're attacking the Salafis. But what am I before you refute me? Aren't I Salafi? And once you refute me, I'm no longer Salafi. So when you were pointing out my mistakes and refuting me, what were you doing except for doing what? Attacking and slandering Salafis. So the name of the game is hypocrisy. That's the name of the game from beginning to end. We do what we want, and you do what we tell you. We do what we want to do, you do what we tell us to do. And the moment you start thinking critically and you ask these questions, they'll block you and remove you and kick you out of their circle. If you don't believe this, I'm sure many of you have experience in this. Why is it fair for us to say this? But Sheikh Fulan, nah, you can't say that. Astaghfirullah. Respect the scholars. Don't talk about the brothers. Don't refute the brothers. But brother Fulan, before he was refuted, he was a what? He was a brother. So it's hypocrisy. Everyone understand this? So it depends on who the teacher is. It depends on what he says. It depends on what is the mistake. It depends on the refutation. There is no one black and white rule. Everyone understand this? And as we have laid down, and alhamdulillah, given a great deal of effort to show, ignorant people hate details. Ignorant people, they're allergic to thinking. They don't want to think, and they do not promote thinking. And that is why they always want things to be black and white. Think about this, Hisham. Maybe he did say something wrong, maybe, but he still has a ton of benefit. No, it's black or white. They don't want you to think. They don't want to think. Because when they start thinking, other things become clear, like you never studied, and like you can't speak Arabic, and like you've been refuted, and like this scholar, and so on and so on and so forth. So it's a game. So there is no black and white ruling. It depends on who's the learner. It depends on what you're learning. It depends on the mistake. It depends on the person, etc. And Allah knows best. Next question says, a sister is speaking to a brother for marriage, and though he seems like a good guy, he talks a lot about the intimate matters he is looking forward to post-marriage. This makes the sister uncomfortable. Is this a bad idea? If you like the brother and he likes you, get the basic things out of the way. As long as there's basic compatibility and there's a sincere intention, khalas. When do you want to get married? How much time do you need? I need 3 months. I need 6 months. I need a year. Okay, no problem. Until then, you go your way. I go my way. When you're ready to get married, let's do it the right way. And you can ask me whatever you want to know about intimacy. As far as chit-chatting and asking this question, asking that question perpetually for a month, 3 months. Well, do you like this? And what's your favorite this? And what does your body look like over and over again? That's dangerous. And perhaps that's a telltale sign that he's not the brother for you. Certain basic necessities I need to know. That's one thing. And keep things honest and brutally honest. You may go to a sister, or a sister goes to a brother, and you want to know basic compatibility. Let's say a brother who's hypersexual. He can't help it. It's a high sex drive. And the sister, she's been married before, or she made zina before. She has an extremely low sex drive. And she doesn't desire to have intimate relations too often. That's going to be a problem later on. That's going to be a huge problem. So this is a necessary question of intimacy. Listen, what is your idea of marital relations? She says once a week. And he says 3 times a day. This is a reality. I'm being brutally honest. Being brutally honest. That's a clear problem later on. It's going to lead to divorce. It's going to lead to zina. It's going to lead to haram acts. That's not like you asking questions which are unnecessary at this stage. And even if it is a necessary question of intimacy or sexuality or of your body or this and that, it should be done with a purpose and not over and over and just keep talking about it and them asking you questions about that kind of stuff. Everyone understand the point? I think it is more than logical and fair. Common sense here. So how long do you need to get to know someone? I need time to think. I need time to save money. I need time to get myself together. Tayyib, no problem. And that time, the chit-chatting and the pictures and the videos should stop. Or, at best or at worst, you can still talk. You're intended. You want to get married, but no more questions about sex and intimacy. That's done. I've told you the basics that you need to know. You know the basics about me. Anything else is after we get married. Class. As far as you just keep talking about that kind of stuff over and over again, something's wrong. And in most cases, it's going to lead to a disaster. And Allah knows best. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How do you deal with someone slandering and lying about you? You don't deal with them. Turn away from them. Leave them alone. Let them be. You do you. You focus on the positivity. Let them destroy themselves. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Sheikh. How do you help advise a friend, family member dealing with depression from an Islamic point of view? Read the story of Yusuf, alayhi salatu wasalam. Read the story of Yusuf. Read the story of Ayub. Read the story of Musa and Musa's mother. Read what Allah did and how Allah brought Musa back. Read the story of people who suffered, people who sacrificed, people who are closer to Allah and suffered more. Read their stories. And most importantly, the prophetic supplications to remove sadness and to remove grief and anxiety. Is it wrong if I seek knowledge without bringing my blood sisters home? Does the quote, help yourself before you help others, apply? Do both, inshallah ta'ala. Look after your family and seek ilm. Manage your time. Prioritize your movements. Calculate it and plan it out. I have a class. I have to take you home. This sister, this brother, my husband, father, he can help you. Prioritize. And if it's something which is very important to you, you'll find a way to give it precedence. You'll find a way to give it precedence if it's really important to you. So prioritize and manage your time. And even if you don't study every day, because of your worldly responsibilities, la bas. Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, he says that I had a neighbor from the Ansar. كُنَّا نَتَنَاوَبُ النُّزُولَ عَلَى رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. I would go to the Prophet one day while the Ansari man would work the farm. And then when I went back, I would tell him of the hadith. And the next day, the Ansari man would go to the Prophet and I would work the farm. And we worked together. So there's no clash between deen and dunya with regards to seeking ilm. And the same applies to brothers who want to go overseas, but they can't go overseas. Or sisters, I don't have enough money, or I have a family, or I have a job, or I'm an imam at the masjid. Why can't you go to Egypt for 3 months? Rent an apartment, pay the entire year for the apartment. 3 months you're in Egypt studying, and 3 months your friend is working in Canada. Then you go back to Canada, and he goes to Egypt for 3 months. He doesn't have to buy any pots, pans, everything is in the apartment. He can study, he doesn't work. 2 or 3, 5, 10 brothers, if they can do this, 6 months, go back and forth. No one is hurt. No one is outstretched. We work, we save money, and we go and we trade places. That's beautiful. Even if it's a month out of the year. 1 month I'm overseas and I come back and I work for 11 months. Tayyib. How much Quran can you memorize in a month? How much Quran, how much Arabic can you learn in 3 months in Egypt or any other place that you go? There's no clash if you really want it. And Allah knows best. What's your definition of the epitome of hijab? Hijab is hijab. It's very simple and it's very easy. It's nothing difficult, it's nothing confusing. Hijab is like salah. You have to pray in a specific direction, a specific time, doing specific actions, saying specific things. You have to avoid specific things in salah. Salah, hijab are one. You can't pray how you want to pray, when you want to pray. Prayer is not based off of culture. Prayer is based off of being a servant of Allah. And the same applies to your hijab. Whatever the Quran and Sunnah tells you about a hijab, that's what you have to do, to the best of your ability. If it's not an issue of Quran and Sunnah, then follow what you want to follow. You like black, blue, red, green, brown? Wear whatever color you want. Wear whatever style you want. As long as it falls under the instructions of Quran and Sunnah. Just like prayer. You want to recite Surah Al-Baqarah? That's fine. You want to recite Qul Huwallahu Ahad? That's fine. You want to make ruku' for 5 minutes? That's fine, as long as it's in the boundaries of the teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah. We should not overcomplicate things. There is no one cultural dress code of hijab as long as it's what it's supposed to be. It can't be tight. It cannot be see-through. It cannot be perfumed. It cannot be a means of drawing people's eyes to you unnecessarily. It's supposed to cover your beauty. It's supposed to hide your beauty. وَبِهَذِهِ الْمُنَاسَبَةِ. And at this time, I would like to say something which makes you happy, but it makes you very sad. Many people, they accept Islam, such as women. And they say, I accepted Islam because Islam gives honor to a woman. Islam puts a woman on a platform. Islam makes a woman equal with a man. Islam gives dignity to a woman. No man is allowed to look at you and lust off of you and judge you by your appearance. And a brother marries you for the person that you are. And he loves your mind, and he loves your heart, and he loves your soul and your spirit. And not just based off of what you look like. Part of that is right, and a big part of that is really, really, really wrong. The hijab is not meant to keep people from enjoying what you look like. The hijab is not meant to protect and to hide and to stifle your beauty. Absolutely, that's wrong. Your husband is supposed to look at you and enjoy the way that you look. Your friends, your girlfriends, your sisters, the Muslimas, they're supposed to sit around and have a party and drink tea and socialize and be comfortable in the house. And there's nothing wrong with fashion and looking nice and smelling nice. There's nothing wrong with that. Outside of the house or in the house in which there's a non-mahram, pay close attention. Many women, they think that they can wear anything inside the house. That's wrong. If there's a non-mahram in your house, you have to wear hijab just like you're on the street. If there's a non-mahram in your house, you're not allowed to show him what you show a mahram. It's not just about the house. Many people in many Muslim countries, they think this. If a guest comes over, you can show your face. Or if there's someone, a cousin or an in-law or something, no, that's haram. Mahram is mahram, non-mahram is non-mahram. A woman could go outside of the house late at night and take the recycling to the curb. She lives in a desolate area. No one sees her. 2 a.m. and she walks outside really quick without her full hijab. And the woman could be inside of her home with the lights on, and she has to wear her hijab. It's all about non-mahrams seeing you. Everyone understand this? That's not correct. Those people who feel that the hijab is only for outside the house. That's wrong. So therefore, if a man likes the way you are as a person, she has a good personality, and she's also beautiful. Physically, there's nothing wrong with that. But oftentimes people, they're jaded, and they're burnt out by fashion, or by pornography, or by movies, or by abusive and toxic relationships. And they go to the extreme. And they think that Islam is only internal and spiritual. That's totally wrong. There's nothing wrong with your husband to like the way that you look. There's nothing wrong with that. And you are not supposed to get rid of your beauty. You're only supposed to get rid of your beauty to those who are not allowed to look at it. So hijab is not a khimar. Hijab is not some type of sash. Hijab is not some type of cultural, flimsy, floppy garb. Hijab is to protect you and to keep you from disobeying Allah and His Messenger. And if you're not doing that, then that's not the proper hijab. Next question. What is the ruling on plastic surgery? I.e., fixing a nose after a car accident, removing something abnormal or something you were not born with. Plastic surgery is of two types, the ulama of Islam say. Plastic surgery, li'izalati aib, to remove something which is extremely unsightly. Something was extremely unsightly. It's abnormal. It's not right. That's one type of plastic surgery or cosmetic surgery. And then there is plastic surgery to enhance beauty and to attract beauty and to give yourself an enhancement that Allah did not create you with. So obviously the first type of plastic surgery or cosmetic surgery is lawful. And the second type is clearly haram, and it's a major sin. So therefore, if it's something that you weren't born with, but a really bad accident, my nose is totally twisted and warped, it's permissible to get it reset. Something that you're born with an extra finger and it's very unsightly, it's not normal. It prevents you from having a normal relationship with regards to teeth or braces or your hair or something. That's one thing, labas. The ulama of Islam, they say. But I just want thicker lips, or I want lighter skin, or I want larger breasts, or I want smaller feet, or I want this type of ear. I want my ears extended. I want my ears to look like elf ears, which many people do. You'd be shocked. How many people get surgery? Wallahi al-azim, you'll be shocked. How many men and women get elf ears? You think I'm making this up, Omar? Honestly, do you think I'm making this up, Sheikh? Wallahi al-azim, you'll be shocked. Go on the internet, Google it right now. You see the people that are fantasized with having elf ears. That's haram, and that's changing Allah's creation. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. We helped a sister to escape from our abusive father, and are we held accountable in the eyes of Allah as a sin? No. He's abusive. He's beating her up. Waliyadu billah. Refuge is sought in Allah. You're helping her. It's not a sin. Rather, it's a good deed. But make sure that you do it properly. Make sure that she's not lying to you. Make sure that he is abusive and it's something which is proven. Make sure that you're not breaking family ties unnecessarily. Make sure that you help the father who's abusive. Unsur akhaka zaliman aw mazluman. The Prophet says, help your brother if he's a wrongdoer or if he's wronged. In most cases, men who are abusive, they were abused. Psychology teaches us this. People that are tyrannical, bloodthirsty, People that have very bad tempers and things like this, because they were abused. One of the bloodiest people of the 20th century was Joseph Stalin. Joseph Stalin, you read about the Great Purge and what he did in the Soviet Union, how many people died, Russians. Not people that came from other countries, Russians. Millions of people he killed. Read about Joseph Stalin and how he grew up. His father was a well-known drunkard, and his mother was beaten to a pulp on a nightly basis. He learned that violence and not to trust anyone and to use utter terror against people because of his childhood, his psychology. So he's killing people ruthlessly. He's doing it not because he finds pleasure in it, but because he's hurting on the inside. And that's the only way that he can express that pain that he had to witness. His loving, caring mother getting beat to a pulp by a drunkard that comes home at 1 a.m. at night. So you have to help this person as well. He needs therapy. Someone needs to stop him. Someone needs to help him out in most cases. So help her and try your best to help him out to the best of your ability. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best. Are there any other questions? We will stop. Further. Your daughter asks about being in school and giving someone a gift on their birthdays. Tayyib. Don't give them a gift on their birthdays. That's the best thing to do. And that's the safest thing to do. Birthdays, there lies no doubt. Many people can say that it's haram to celebrate a birthday. And there are others who may argue, may say it's not haram. It's no longer religious, it's not based off of superstition, etc. Al-Muhim, teach your daughter and educate your daughter not to give someone a gift on their birthdays. Congratulate them for Jumu'ah, for the Eid. Alhamdulillah, that's more than enough. That's the best thing to tell your daughter, inshallah. And with Allah is all success. Fadda, go ahead. Guys, if you have any questions, now's the time. I have no problem helping you guys out. We can stay until 2 a.m. Wallahi. I mean that. So, but you just gotta say, if you have a question, tafaddal. It's not a problem, but you can't be shy.
Is it haram to enter a church for a good reason?
So, right, clear. Question is it haram to enter a church for a good reason? No, it's not haram. It's permissible to go inside of a church if it's a good reason. If it's not a good reason, that's a different story. What do you do when you go in a church? What you say? That's a totally different story. But just going inside of a church is not necessarily haram. You may have to go inside of a church. It may be a necessity. Or maybe a benefit in you going inside of a church. It depends on what the reason is. It depends what? On the reason. Casually, recreational, just going inside of a church? No. But if there's a reason, that's one thing. It's not necessarily haram. Okay. Right. If your sister goes to a Catholic school and she's presenting something in a church, is it haram to go? If you go inside that church and you're a Muslim, you're a believer, you're not worshiping other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for argument's sake, you go in there just to support your sister. It's one thing. It may not be the best thing, but it's not necessarily haram. You're not making shirk. But you being in that place, bearing witness to that location, قد تدخل في قوله تعالى والذين لا يشهدون الزور قد تدخل في شهادة الزور. You may be included in that of physically bearing witness to falsehood, but it doesn't mean مجرد دخولك الكنيسة, يعني just going inside of a church is haram. Doesn't necessarily mean that. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's haram just to go in, especially if that's your intention. I'm not worshiping, I'm not venerating their gods and their idols. It's a different story, and Allah knows best. Fadl Azi. Question says, nutmeg being an intoxicant. Nutmeg, like many other spices, fruits, vegetables, different things, may have some type of intoxicating agents or powers. If it's left in a certain place or for a certain amount of time, if you use it in a certain way, etc. Like many other spices. Nutmeg, in brief, from my research, what the ulama of Islam say, is not absolutely haram. Cooking with a spice, baking with a spice being mixed and used as a byproduct is not absolutely haram. Taking the nutmeg in its pure, original form and using it to get high, that's a different story. Yeast in bread, there's no bread without yeast. When human beings learned how to use yeast, which was an accident, historians say that humans discovered the concept of yeast in bread by accident. One of the most popular foods in the world. Every corner of the world is bread. Do you know that the people who discovered the way of making bread, it was an accident? They said that they were heating up and cooking some porridge, and they fell asleep, and some of the yeast had spilled into the pot, and when they woke up, they found that it was dry, like a thick cracker, and they ate it, and they found it to be delicious and tasty, and then they figured out the concept of using the yeast with the flour and the salt, and they made bread, and we're all indebted to that accident to this day. Sandwiches and pita bread and things like this, cheese steaks. We're all indebted to that. Al-Muhim. No sushi, Subhanallah. I'll tell you, at the end of the day, the concept of yeast and bread is what? It's fermentation. It's fermented. Everything which is fermented doesn't mean that it's an intoxicant. Everything that goes through some type of fermentation doesn't mean that it's absolutely haram to take. That's the point I'm trying to get to. هذا الشاهد من الكلام الطويل. That's the point that I'm trying to get to. So if nutmeg is used as a spice in a cake, you can eat 6 slices of cake. Do you get drunk? Nafis. If you eat chocolate cake or vanilla cake, doesn't necessarily mean that. So it depends on how it's used, It depends on what? On how it's used, like other things as well. Like other things as well. And Allah knows best. In the back, I believe it was a brother in the back. No, it was somebody else. First come, first serve. Tight. Fadal, ya akhi. What are the 3 conditions of begging being permissible? Number 1, it has to be a necessity. You understand this? Number 2, a person is not allowed to annoy the one whom you beg. Number 3, you're not allowed to humiliate yourself. 1, it has to be a necessity or need. Even if it's not a necessity, a need, a hajjah. 2, you cannot abuse and annoy the one whom you ask. 3, you're not allowed to humiliate yourself. Mahdi. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Akhi, I'm sorry to bother you. I know you just had a son, but I'm going through a little difficulties. Can you help me out? That's it. I leave him a WhatsApp message. He gets back with me. What do you need, Mufti? Whatever you need, I got it. If I don't have it, I'll go to the brothers. They'll take care of you. That's it. Mahdi, please help me. Please, please, Akhi. Wallahi, please. I'm going through a lot. Please, Akhi. Please, please. I send him 20 messages. I call him 20 times. Missed calls. I keep texting him. Fear Allah. Reply to my call. Reply to my... That's haram. Or I ask him for money and I just want more money and I have all of the money. So these three conditions, without a doubt, they make total sense. وَالشُّرُوطُ ذَكَرَهَا الْإِمَامُ النَّوَوِي فِي الْمِنْهَاجِ. And Allah knows best. Fadal, who was next? Fadal, akhi. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brother. Tayyib. Question regarding waswasa. Wasawas, whispers of oneself or of shaitan. They keep making salah over and over again. They keep making wudu over and over again. The prophetic answer is to do 2 things. فَلْيَسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ وَلْيَنْتَهِ. Seek Allah's refuge and practice self-control. So the thought comes to you, the immediate thing is never to entertain the thought. Immediately, aggressively counterattack the thought. A'udhu billah. Don't stop and entertain the thought and let it enter into your mind. Immediately and aggressively stop it by saying, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Seek Allah's refuge. Secondly, the thought may come back or it may be lingering around. Practice self-control. Practice to stop entertaining the thought and allow it to linger and attack you, which may be difficult in the beginning, but all things are difficult in the beginning. And before you taste sweet, you must taste bitter. You have to sacrifice and suffer a little bit. Allah will test your sincerity. Allah will test your honesty. And you have to work for that. So seek Allah's refuge. Practice self-control. 3rd piece of advice that's not mentioned in the hadith is avoid being alone unnecessarily. Keep company around you. Good, righteous company. Do not be alone if you don't have to be. Fourth piece of advice is avoid having free time. The only free time you need to have is to sleep and to do the basic necessities of using the bathroom. That's it. From the time you wake up, get up out the bed, cook, go to a restaurant, do something, prayer, do something. Avoid having free time and avoid being by yourself. A fifth point of advice is to develop a good hobby, even if it isn't a religious issue. Get involved in working out or playing a sport or learning how to do a trade. Keep your mind from being idle and force yourself to exert your mental focus on something else, which is beneficial. The last point of advice or piece of advice what the ulama of Islam say is that if a person is attacked by waswasa, there is no safety or precaution. There's no, let me do it just in case. Someone who has a sound mind, maybe I didn't, that's one thing. But you have this problem, I made wudu, that's the bottom line, khalas. Maybe you didn't wash your foot, maybe you did. Keep moving. Do not turn back. And do not use the safety rule. It's the safest thing to make wudu again. It's the safest thing to say Allah Akbar again. No. Do not look back. With these points, these 5 or 6 points, I think, inshallah ta'ala, it will help anyone who's suffering from waswasa. And Allah knows best. Fadal akhi. To have a what? Is it haram or halal to have a fade? I don't consider it to be haram. Some may say it is, but I don't think so. I don't think the fade is what's meant by that hadith. And the Nabi sallallahu naha anil qaza. I don't think it's haram to have a fade, and Allah knows best. Fadal. What's your advice on vaccinating children? We just answered that. And the sister's Q&A. It must have came from your wife, maybe. Allah knows best. At the end of the day, I mean, it depends, Yani. It depends. Me personally, I'm not feeling it. Maybe I'm a skeptic or I've watched too many conspiracy theory documentaries. I'm not feeling the concept of vaccination too much. I think sometimes the harm is more than the benefit. And I think sometimes the harm isn't even there. And it's just like a mirage. There's no sickness or illness that they're vaccinating you from. Back then, different story. Polio, things like this, different story. Nowadays, me personally, I don't feel that comfortable with vaccinations. But I'm not saying it's haram, and I'm not saying this is the what the ulama say. I'm saying me. I don't feel the vaccinations are the best idea for certain reasons. And Allah knows best. But if you feel comfortable, if you talk to a professional doctor, which I'm nothing close to, not best. But my personal opinion as your brother and your friend, I would say I really wouldn't be comfortable with it. Allah knows best. Fadl akhi. Huh? Well, there you go. So you can bypass it, Sheikh. Fadl akhi. Question says, Nafis, does vape have the same ruling as smoking? It's a good question. Very important question. Just like social media and the internet, it's a modern day issue. La, Sheikh, not the shisha. Shisha may be too hard on some people. Al-Muhim, it's a very important question. And it's something that we need to do, inshallah, some lessons on. Vaping and cigarettes, I say yes and no. There's certain things which is same. If you vape and you puff and it gets you high and intoxicated, it's no different than you smoking it. Clear? As far as the concept of medicinal marijuana, someone who has cancer or nerve damage, and they vape and the smoke doesn't get into their lungs, that's a different story. Everyone understand this? Also, one may say, and we're going to say the truth, one may say, all right, so let's break down cigarettes now. What makes smoking a cigarette haram? What makes smoking marijuana haram? What makes smoking crack cocaine haram? What makes these things haram? Obviously, cocaine, crack cocaine, Mary Jane is clearly haram because it's an intoxicant. Mary Jane, It's an old school term. It's clearly haram because it gets you high. And the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam askara, naha an kulli ma askara, kulli sharabin askar. Any drink that gets you high is haram. So there's no ijtihad on that. Weed, cocaine, whatever it is, it's haram, clear. But a cigarette, does a cigarette intoxicate you? If it does, then it goes with those other drugs. And if it doesn't, then it's a different way of discussing what makes a cigarette haram. So those who say that cigarettes are haram, they use the following proofs. Number one, they say the cigarette is khabith. وَيَضَعُ عَنْهُمْ إِسْرَهُمْ وَالْأَغْلَالَ الَّتِي كَانَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ. Allah says, وَيُحَرِّمُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْخَبَائِثِ. Is that the Prophet will come and he will liberate the people from the hardships of the previous scriptures, and he will make unlawful to them khabith, anything which is khabith. So they said the cigarette, its smell, its taste is khabith. Number two, they said the cigarette harms your health. وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Don't kill yourselves. وَلَا تُلْكُمْ بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. Allah says, don't render yourself to destruction in the Quran. And smoking, cigarettes, nicotine, lung cancer, throat cancer, etc. Point number three, they say that cigarettes is a waste of money. And it's extremely habit forming, and the money can be spent fi sabilillah on one's family. وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا. Don't be a spendthrift, Allah says. إِنَّ الْمُبَذِّرِينَ كَانُوا إِخْوَانَ الشَّيَاطِينَ وَكَانَ الشَّيْطَانُ لِرَبِّهِ كَفُورًا. Allah prohibits being a spendthrift. The next point is that it says cigarettes have a bad smell and a bad odor. And it's something which annoys people. وَإِنَّ الْمَلَائِكَةَ تَتَأَذَّى مِمَّا يَتَأَذَّى مِنْهُ بُنُو آدَمَ. The Prophet says in authentic hadith, angels are annoyed by things that humans are annoyed by. Clear. So some of these points against cigarettes are clearly strong. No doubt about that. And there are other points against cigarettes which are strong, but they're not as strong as the first points. So if a person is vaping and it doesn't destroy his lungs, it doesn't destroy his throat, it doesn't destroy his lips, if a person is vaping and is not an intoxicant, so on and so on and so forth, you've automatically narrowed it more than the actual cigarette. It's not as wide. It still could be haram, but it is as what? It's not as wide just because of smoke, let alone what you're vaping. What is in that vaporizer? Everyone understand this? So if you're vaping something which is harmful to you, clearly haram. And obviously that's relative because white sugar is harmful and has no nutritional value. What do you get out of eating white sugar? What is it cause of diabetes and cancer and people getting rotten teeth? But no one says sugar is haram. So just because something has some harm in it doesn't mean that it's always haram. Intabihu. وَيَاكُمْ وَالْمُغَالَطَةِ. Be careful and avoid falling into inconsistent fiqh. Sugar, somebody could say it's haram. I'm not saying it's haram, but somebody could say that. Say sugar is haram. It causes cancer just like smoking a cigarette causes cancer. What's the difference? It's addictive, it's habit forming, and it does nothing for your body. Somebody could say that. So the point is that vaping or cigarettes, oftentimes some people say it's makruh. It's only this light because of its bad odor. So if you're vaping something and the odor isn't bad and the smoke is not on your clothes and it's not causing cancer, so on and so forth, then obviously it's not going to be the same ruling as what? As a cigarette. But it doesn't mean that you should do it. And it doesn't mean that it's advisable. Because you may start off vaping something which may not be haram or makruh or doubtful, and it can lead you to you vaping something which is clearly haram. Everyone understand this? But at brief, there lies no doubt a vapor is not like smoke. And it is scientifically wrong to say that they are the same. A vaporizing something is not like smoke. What smoke does and what a vapor does, they aren't the same. It's two different worlds. Clear on that? And Allah knows best. I know many people may disagree and feel differently. That's fine. And I never said that vaping is halal. Never said that. But we had a brief discussion of the principles. Clear or not? And we also said at the end that you can't lose by staying away from it. No one quote me saying that it's halal to vape, because I didn't say that. I did not what? I did not say that. But at the same time, I do not believe in being inconsistent and hypocritical. Smoke is not like what? Vapor. Intoxicant is not like something which isn't a what? Intoxicant. Clear? Al-Muhim, unfortunately, brothers, we're going to stop the Q&A. If you want to ask me anything, you can ask me afterwards. I know some people are getting restless. Some brothers are getting tired. Some people may be getting angry. What is this guy talking about? It's permissible to vape, right? So we're going to stop here. وَإِنَّ الْمَجْلِسَ إِذَا طَالَ كَانَ لِلشَّيْطَانِ فِيهِ إِيش نَصِيب وَالْعِلْمُ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى جزاكم الله خيرا. Ask the questions off the record, inshallah.
جزاكم الله خير. بارك الله.